So good morning, everyone. Thank you for your patience. So today's session is called Fundamentals and Implementation of E-invoicing. So e-invoicing is a very hot topic right now, and I think a lot of companies are already in the process of implementing e-invoicing. So just for information, today's session is being recorded. It's been recorded, so I hope all of you all got no objections. Anybody got objections? Raise your hands. So no objections, okay. The reason why we are recording is because of HRDC. They require the recording for assessment and accreditation purpose. All right. So it will only be used for that purpose. The recording of the session will not be used for any publicity or advertising or anything, so your privacy is protected. Okay. So this is me. My name is Celestine Vincent. I'm the CEO and founder of Axis Consult. We are approximately more than 30 years as financial consultants. And I've also been in the banking industry for about 5 years or so. The important thing is, yes, the experience, yes, the qualifications. I think the more important thing is my passion to deliver, my passion to share my knowledge with people around. I think that's the most important part of it. Okay, are you familiar with this face? Who is familiar? Okay, this is Martin Luther King. Okay, he was an activist for equality among for the blacks in the US during his period, which was in the 60s, known for many famous quotations. And what we're going to listen is a video. It's a very rare footage actually, so it's quite blur. It's a rare footage of him talking about learning, right? So it's a very short video, so we'll just watch the video.
Number one in your life's blueprint should be a deep belief in your own dignity, your own worth, and your own somebodyness. Secondly, you must have the determination to achieve excellence. And so I would urge you to study hard, to burn the midnight oil when you discover what you're going to be in life. Set out to do it as if God Almighty called you at this particular moment in history to do it. Set out to do a good job and do that job so well that the living, the dead, or the unborn couldn't do it any better. Finally, in your life's blueprint must be commitment, the eternal principles of beauty, love, and justice. And so our slogan must not be burn, baby, burn. It must be build, baby, build. Learn, baby, learn, so that we can earn, baby, earn. If you can't fly, run. If you can't run, walk. If you can't walk, crawl. But by all means, keep moving.
Was that a good one? I think I've watched this video at least 100 times. And it's very, very motivating. And how does it resonate with each one of you? Does it speak anything to you all? Man, what about you? You gonna say what? Strive to be a better person, huh? In excellence. What about you? One word, just one word. But what's the main word that caught you?
Towards the end, if you can't run, you walk. If you can't walk,
Crawl.
what do
Yep.
we keep moving?
Keep moving. I think that's so important. Yeah, that's very important. I think we have to keep moving. We've got to keep in touch of all the developments that are taking place right now, and especially now with the era of AI, right? If we just ignore it, within the next few years, we all will become irrelevant already. What about you? Keep moving. Right? What about you?
I think the idea is that you got to continue learning, you got to continue growing yourself, you got to always expand what you can, where you can go forward from what you are today, and always do things better than anyone else can do.
Right. Chris?
It's in keep moving.
Jim?
I just come
Oh, you didn't see the video? Oh, okay. You didn't watch the video. It's okay. So basically, we can see the main thing that Martin Luther King is talking about is continuous learning. I think that's very important to keep ourselves updated with everything that is of the latest, right? I'm not bragging, but I'm 66 years old, but I take the trouble, during the COVID pandemic when we were at home, I take the trouble even to learn how to develop a website. And I think maybe I'm in one of the top 1% of people above 60 years old who know how to develop a website. So those are things that we need to do. So you need to have a passion to learn and a passion to share the knowledge that you gain as well. Okay. So today what we're going to actually do is basically we'll be trying to understand the fundamentals of e-invoicing, and then we'll go forward to see how to use this in the real world. So you have the LHDN My Invoice portal, and you have options of the different accounting softwares. So by the end of the session, I won't read the whole thing to you, but by the end of the session, you must be able to access the My Invoice portal. You must be able to issue e-invoices in compliance with LHDN requirements. You must understand what type of invoices that your suppliers give you require self-billing. These are terms that may be new to you, but we will, as we go on, we will try to understand and explore a little bit more what it is. So basically, there'll be 8 outcomes, and we hope that at the end of the day, you'll be good enough to deliver another training session. Okay, so today's session is actually been it's been divided into 5 modules. Module 1 will be the introduction to Malaysia's e-invoicing and strategic importance. 2 is e-invoicing framework, regulation and compliance. Third one is the workflow and submission. The fourth one is the e-invoicing implementation, planning and best practices. And the 5th session will be invoicing with accounting software and also with the portal. The 5th session will be a series of videos. I didn't want to have a session where we go through showing you how to use it because it'll be very time consuming. We'll need another 1.5 day workshop for that. So what we did was Mr. Ramesh here developed a few videos to actually show you where to go and what to do on each of the videos so you know how to use the portal and the softwares. Just for my info, some of them I know what softwares they are using. What softwares do you all use for accounting? SQL. SQL, they have already done the e-invoicing with you, right? So ground rules, I think all of us adults, I don't want to go through the ground rules, but I know we started a bit late, but we try to be punctual after every break. Other than that, I think we respect one another when we share, we listen, right? Okay, just a quick question. What is it that we already know about e-invoicing? We can just go through. John, what do you know about e-invoicing?
Well, invoicing is a new thing that's been implemented in Malaysia, and all businesses have been striving to get to that level now for invoicing as a basic need.
Okay, Ramesh?
That one is the thing which connects you with the government. So, meanwhile, at the end of the year, you don't need to crack your head for the taxation.
Good. about you, Nat?
I was about to answer the same thing as well, but you had.
Oh, you all, what do you all know about e-invoicing?
Say, connected to the bill and very transparent, make it transparent.
Okay, good one. Yes?
The idea is syncing your transactions with the government, so that the government knows how much you're making and what is the real actual expenditure of and the income of a particular.
Right, okay. Chris? Okay, so brand new.
Which is very, very
Yeah.
What about you all? Same.
Same with the government.
Okay. So in this first module, we're going to look at e-invoicing and its strategic importance. So what is e-invoicing? Malaysia's digitization policy and the advantages of e-invoicing. We're just going to run through this quickly, right? Don't worry about this. It's a bit blur, right? It's basically just to show, currently most of us are already creating invoices either in Excel or we are using an accounting software. So on SQL, you probably generate invoices. QuickBooks, you're already generating invoices. Okay. These invoices, although they are electronic in nature, right? Because you're electronically creating it, this is not the e-invoicing that we are referring to. This is still called traditional paper invoice, right? It's still not what we refer to as e-invoicing. It is an electronic format because sometimes we send it as soft copies and all that. It is electronic format. If you go by English vocabulary, it is an e-invoice. It's an electronic invoice, but it is not the e-invoicing regulation that LHDN is implementing, right? So the actual e-invoice is like this. First of all, it must be in this format. So this format, don't worry about what the actual meaning of this format. Basically to indicate that it is a machine readable format, that's all, right? And just now I think all of you all shared this, right? That the continuous transaction control basis, that means there's always somebody seeing what you are doing. Okay? So now with e-invoicing, you have LHDN, in a way they are behind you, seeing whatever business you are doing. So all the information that we transact is there immediately, real time or near real time. So in an e-invoice, you'll notice that you'll have this QR code. The QR code is a validation by LHDN. Okay, so the QR code, if you actually zoom in, it's got the name of the company that you're selling to, your company, and the amount. That's about it. Okay, this is Malaysia's digitization policy. How many of you have heard of the policy? Anybody? Hands up. You have? Okay. So it's a policy that has been there since 2011. It's been there, but it's only after Gobind Singh Dio came in as a minister that is actually putting it on fast pace. Okay? So basically, it's to digitize our economy, digitize our social lives. Okay, so government and academic. Actually, the economy also includes finance, right? The digitization of banking, all our financial instructions, stuff like that, right? Social will be bridging the divide. So I don't know if you all are aware, during the pandemic, right? Children couldn't go to school, and children that came from affluent family, they were able to follow their studies using the iPads and stuff like that. But children that came from the lower income group, they lost out because they didn't have access to this. Even their homes didn't have internet and stuff like that. So that's one of the policies to bridge the divide, make technology more accessible to everybody, for people to develop new skills. Actually, there are a lot of opportunities today to develop new skills, even through HRDC, right? Human Resource Development Corporation. There are a lot of grants now for training programs for people to upskill themselves and all that, especially in the area of technology and AI. Okay, and then of course when you have more skilled workers, you actually you safeguard the economy lah. You don't have to import workers lah. This is a huge area. Okay, it starts first by training teachers to adopt digitization, so that they can then pass it down to their students and to become more tech savvy as well, right? Government, this is what we are into today, right? So e-invoicing is part of the government initiative for us to move forward. So this is the whole Malaysian digital policy. E-invoicing is one small portion there, right? So people are so caught up by e-invoicing because that is the only thing that's coming out in the media so often, right? So everybody thinks e-invoicing is the digitization policy, but it's not. The digitization policy is, like I mentioned, it's very much bigger. So what is the benefit to the nation if we implement e-invoicing? Actually, the biggest benefit is they collect more money. And then now we'll have more money. But remember, collecting more money is probably the platform. But the real benefit is when the government has got more money, it has got more money to spend on infrastructure, more money to spend even on educating of our little ones. Maybe someday we will have education free of charge right up to university. No more all this PTPTN and stuff like that, so that there can be more free education. Okay. Before I continue, at the end of the session, I will be giving you all the slides, right? So no need to actually take notes or whatever, unless I'll be sharing the slides with you. This one is also very good, enhanced data analytics for LHDN. Ministry of Finance, every year they normally report, isn't it, what is the GDP productivity rate. So those information that we've been getting right now has been maybe 60% accurate. When they tell you unemployment rate is 4.2%, it's only 60% accurate. I don't think it's very accurate. But once we implement all of this, it will be more accurate. And when you get accurate information, the government is in a position to make more accurate decisions in their planning for the future, right? So that is why the entire digitization policy, the government is spending lots of money, and there's actually lots of opportunities if we also exploit them. So digitization also brings about a disruption in the way we do things. So I've given two examples here, Netflix and e-wallet. Are you all familiar with Netflix? Okay. Now prior to Netflix, right, when you want to watch a video, what do we do? Pardon?
You go to the video store.
Yeah, exactly. You go to the video store, where you subscribe and actually become a member, right? You pay $50 or $20. Then every time you want to watch a particular video, you hire like RM2 or something like that, and then return it after a few days. Then came along Netflix. Now you can watch the latest videos and all that, and for a very low subscription. What's the subscription for Netflix? Huh? 29 for basic, right? And already you have access to a whole lot of new movies in so many different languages, and you have the different type of genres as well, right? So as a result of people moving into Netflix, what happened to the video stores? They all closed. So technology brings about disruption, and the way even our social life changes as a result of technology, the way business is done also changes. Okay? E-wallet. Give you an example. This one happened to a client of mine. You know ATM machines, the ATM machines, right? The way ATM machines operate is, let's say Maybank will normally appoint a security company. And the security company's job will be to, whenever the ATM machines, the money is finishing, they will actually go to Bank Negara, take a whole lot of cash, go to their own counting centers. They will have their own counting centers, count the money and put them in different packets, and then they go to, okay, Maybank, Jalan Ipoh, Maybank, Taman Tun, and put all the money there, right? That's exactly what they were doing. So there was a client of mine in 2014. It was already an existing security company, but he wanted to up himself by providing this additional service to banks. He invested 16 million ringgit to develop this facility to count, which was a high security facility to do counting of money. The trucks will come, collect the money, the armed guards will follow and all that, that kind of thing. And initially, they were making money, right? Then came the pandemic. And suddenly everybody, even a 70-year-old uncle, knew how to use the handphone to transfer money and all that, no? And then we had Grab, we had Touch and Go, and I don't know what else we have. Now nobody was going to the ATM machines. So the ATM machine, whatever money they put there is still there, no? They didn't need the regular transportation, no? And sadly, this client of mine lost a lot of money. Yeah, he passed away. He passed away, I guess, because of the heart attack. He passed away, but that's what happened to him. So because of technology, there was a new method of us making payments, right, through e-wallet. So what we already knew, which was also a technological progress, the ATM machine was no longer relevant. Okay. In the past, myself, I used to go to the bank maybe 1 week, 2 times to withdraw money. Now I think 1 month, once also I don't go to the ATM machine. How many of you, how regularly do you all go to the ATM machine? Hardly, right? Yeah. So digitization is a disruption, but it's also an opportunity. Okay, for example, as a result of this technology, Grab came about, right? And Touch and Go came about. Touch and Go was there earlier, right? Grab came about. All e-wallets came about. So they are all opportunities for new businesses, you know. Okay. Okay. So this e-invoice is not only happening in Malaysia. It actually started with other countries. So actually North America, Europe, Latin America, Middle East and all that had already started e-invoicing. Some countries made it mandatory. Some countries made it voluntary, no fixed date, that kind of a thing like that. Singapore, I think, started in 2014, but until today they are not mandatory. Then we also know that Indonesia is implementing it last year, this year. India has got the most successful implementation, and quite a number of countries in the Middle East. So you have Bahrain, Kuwait, and Saudi Arabia, all implementing at the same time, right? Now, this is what some of the countries have experienced, right? Increased collection of taxation, that's obvious. Businesses are increasingly more organized and compliant. So because of this thing there, they have been watched, right? Every transaction is being watched. Businesses now are more compliant. They make sure that all their filings are done in time. They make sure there's sufficient supporting documents for every transaction that they have right now. You know, how many times have you all come across where your auditor comes and asks you for a certain document and you don't have the document? Have you experienced that? Over here? Maybe. A lot of companies, I do auditing as well, right? So very often when we go to a client's place, they'll have a payment voucher. They pay to Mr. Some company and all that, the amount, everything, but no supporting document. It's either misplaced, not filed properly, or sometimes the supplier would have emailed, but they didn't print the email and then they deleted the email. So a lot of missing supporting documents now. With this e-invoicing, that won't happen already now. Every document is going to be there. Because later when you look at the portal, the portal has an inbox and an outbox. every invoice that you issue will be there. And it will be held for 25 years. There. So the LHN can go back 25 years to look at all your invoices. I think only 7 years will be there, the rest will be kept on archive. Same thing, when you buy things from your suppliers, their invoices will come into the inbox. The invoices you issue will be in the outbox. The invoices that suppliers issue will be in the inbox. And it's also going to be there for 25 years. So every expenditure that you incur is going to be in the inbox, and it's not going to get lost. So next time when my team goes for audit, they are not going to go and search all over the place for documents. They can just access the invoice portal and all the documents are there. Okay? So greater transparency. There's one part I didn't put here. Okay. As a result of this, for companies that I believe you all don't practice it, but there's some companies practice under table money and all that now. You don't practice it? Okay. So the companies that practice under table money, corruption and all that, then they hide this one in all kinds of expenses when they go and classify it all over the place. They cannot do it anymore. No? Yeah? So if they want to continue to practice making under table payments, they will have to pay the tax themselves. So how many people want to do that? So in a way, e-invoicing, I won't say will eradicate corruption totally, but will mitigate, will actually bring down corruption a lot. Okay, so that was, as far as the government is concerned, advantages for the government. But there's also advantages for business. But you notice the advantage for business not so advantageous. They talk about cost saving in printing and postage. You no longer have to print your invoice, right? Actually, that's not really that. I think a lot of companies already stopped printing invoices, right? They just send it by email and stuff like that. Reduce errors and discrepancies, okay? Okay, the rest I think more or less you all understand what it is. Right? So basically there are advantages. I think the advantages is more on information management. You are now in a position where all the information that you want is easily accessible to you. It's all in one place. And sometimes when your boss asks you for something and you could find all the files and you can't find it, at least you can go back to the portal and there is all the information is there. Okay. We will go into module 2, looking at the legal framework and the regulations and compliance. But before we go there, just to recap on the module 1, do we have any questions? Because module 1 is just like a general introduction to e-invoicing, just to give you the context, the background of why e-invoicing is being introduced. So on module 1, do you all have any questions? Anybody from here? All okay, everybody all? Okay? You all? Okay. So in this module, we will look at invoice framework, the legal framework and the key authorities, scope, implementation timeline, mandatory fields, and penalties for non-compliance. And many of these actually have been coming up in the media over the last few months. So just for your information, from 25, from 2023, when the first guidelines came out, it was called version 1. Until now, there's 13 versions. So LHN has actually been upgrading themselves right now. So LHN is listening to businesses around. They are not just imposing things, they are listening to what are the challenges the businesses are facing, what information is easily available, not available. So they are being very proactive, and working with businesses, and that is why these changes are taking place. And then they can see whether the SST is being paid properly or not. Right? But right now, the audit process for SST will be they write to us, they write to the company, they ask for your ledgers and stuff like that. In future, it will be the other way around. They'll actually go to LHDM. And the other agencies that they will be sharing their data will be EPF, so Human Resource Ministry as well, right? I think immigration requested to be included, but they have not been, they didn't allow. Immigration is not allowed due to the. Okay, invoicing scope and applicability. Who are the people required to practice e-invoicing? So basically every business, okay, every business. There will be some exceptions later. So B2B is when one business is selling something, goods or services to another business. So you have to issue e-invoice. B2C is business to customer, right? So there will be some exceptions here, especially involving retail businesses, where we will talk a little bit about consolidated invoices. And B2G is when you're dealing with government. Okay, so dealing with government works like this. When I sell something to the government, I have to issue e-invoice. But when the government sells something to me, they don't require. Okay, so we will look at that part later. And this is cross-border transactions. Cross-border transaction is basically selling to a foreign buyer, right? Selling to a foreign buyer, you have to issue e-invoice. So it doesn't mean because they are outside the country, you don't have to issue e-invoices. So these are all the different types of bodies. Associations will be bodies that are registered with the Register of Societies. So I think you all know what I mean, NGOs and stuff like that. Body of persons. Can you give me an example of a body of persons? Legal.
Legal counsel, bar counsel.
Yeah. Bar counsel, I think, will come under. Yeah, okay. Yeah, could be bar counsel. I think even all the condominiums, the joint management body, management corporations, and all that, right? Yeah, they all will come under body of persons. The rest, I think you all should be familiar with, right? Property trust and property trust fund, you're familiar with that? Okay. So basically, what they have listed here is like every type of business. Okay. So actually, even individuals, okay, there's a little bit of complication on individuals, because the way they use individuals who are conducting business will have to issue e-invoice. So when we question the LHDN what they actually mean, there's still non-clarity in that area. So I give you an example. Like in my office, we have a part-time office cleaner. So she comes in 3 times a week to clean up the office. But she also provides that service to other companies in that same area. Okay? To me, she's an individual, right? And therefore we should not be expecting her to give the invoice. But when we first asked LHDN on this particular example, their answer to us is she's providing it on a regular basis and therefore it is business in nature. Even though she's not a registered entity, it's business in nature. And therefore she should issue e-invoice. It sounds ridiculous, right? You're an individual, how are you going to issue e-invoice? You won't have a business registration number and stuff like that. And can you imagine asking the cleaner to issue e-invoice? A lot of administrative hassle there. But fortunately, I think I won't use the word fortunately. Most cleaners will not be earning more than 500,000 per year, and therefore they'll be exempted. Okay. But if you take an example, like individual programmer, a software programmer, they could earn more than 500,000 now. So do they need to issue e-invoice or not? So it's a huge question mark still. LHDN has not given us a firm clarification now. So for now, what they have said is, when you face that situation and that individual cannot issue you an e-invoice, to protect ourselves, just do self-billing. So we will cover what self-billing is later. Just do self-billing to protect ourselves. So that's an example of areas of non-clarity within this whole e-invoicing.
It's a small question. Some people can register business under their own name, right? It's not under like their name is like they're self-employed, so you can go to SSM and register as your name and your IC number as a business entity, right?
Sole provider.
Sole provider.
Sole
But
provider.
they won't operate as a business. It's a separate thing I've seen before where they can just register for themselves under their name as a self-employed guy. So like people employ them to do small things, handyman work and all that. So
Business entities in Malaysia under SSM will be sole provider and partnership. That these two comes under business ordinance. Then you've got limited liability partnership that comes under a separate act. Then you've got Sundaran Berhad, and then you have these other cooperatives and societies and all that. That individual thing you're talking about, that means I go to SSM and I just
register your name and IC number.
just register name only. And so basically
But
it's a
there's no
sole
company name, you know.
I know. I choose my name to be the company name.
Yeah.
So a lot of Chinese businessmen like to do that. They put a Dimatic, something like that, no, the kind of thing. So they like to do that. And in UK those days it was like that. They will put what Baker Smith, just like that. No? Okay, so just now this was the list of This was a list of entities that are required to do e-invoicing. So the types of documents, when you say e-invoicing, it's not just e-invoice. There are a whole load of documents involving e-invoicing. And okay, this is an invoice. So invoice, we can define an invoice simply as when I sell goods or services, it's a document to notify my customer what I have sold and how much the cost of the goods is and how much that person owes me. And so you may have other details like where to deliver it and how to make payment for it and stuff like that. So basically that is an invoice. I think that is something all of us are familiar with. Now, the debit note is actually similar to invoice. Okay, you issue a debit note to also tell your customer, hey, you owe me. But under what circumstances do you issue a debit note? Accounting people? You're like accountants, isn't it? Under what circumstances do you issue a debit note?
Less charges.
Pardon?
Less charges.
Less charges.
When you add on a service within the same transaction or there's an additional sale purchase of goods, you want to add it into the invoice, right? Last time, nowadays you can edit very easy. Last time you cannot edit it. So you have to write a note, right? There's a debit note to add something into the invoice.
Okay. So debit note in its original context, right? Its original context is exactly what Pais mentioned. If I sent an invoice, let's say for 1,000 ringgit, but it was supposed to be 1,200 ringgit, it was an error. So I now send a debit note. But if you really look at it, it doesn't make sense, isn't it? Doesn't make sense. I might as well issue another invoice for another $200 saying additional charges in this aspect of this, isn't it? could have easily done it. So debit note then loses its purpose, its functionality, loses its functionality. So today, debit note is actually issued more for non-core activity. Okay. So for example, let's say like my firm, we are an accounting firm, but I also have a property and I'm renting the property. So I don't go and issue it. But now under e-invoicing, I have to issue e-invoice. But I actually issue a debit note for that non-core activity, right? Or sometimes you have an old furniture and you have to sell it off. That sale of that furniture is not your core activity, right? It's just so you issue a debit note, and this one doesn't even affect income because it's going under disposal of assets and stuff like that. So you issue a debit note. Does that make sense to everybody? Or is it confusing? Okay. So what's a credit note?
Discount or reduce your.
Yes. Okay. So a credit note is basically like correcting an error, for example. You wrongly issued an invoice, you want to reduce it, now you put a credit note. Giving a discount is another good example of refund. This one, refund note. This is the newcomer. Anybody? What is refund note? Okay. So it's like this. See, when you issue an invoice, let's say for 100 ringgit, and the customer paid you the 100 ringgit. So now he doesn't owe you any money. And then subsequently, after paying, he comes to you and say, hey, there's an error. It should be 80 ringgit. I can issue a 20 ringgit credit note and then refund the money to him separately. But no, LHDN is saying now you cannot do that. When the person has overpaid, you want to refund the overpayment, you issue a refund note, no longer a credit note. So that means this one is overpaid bills. Overpaid bills, when you want a refund, you use a refund note. So in QuickBooks, we have refund note. Do you all have refund note in SQL? Is it there? Okay. Maybe SQL you can modify your credit note, right?
Yes.
So you can change the name, isn't it? Correct. So I think the accounting entries will be the same. It's just the document name that is going to be different. Okay, and then the other document is self-billed invoice. Okay, I'll just briefly say what self-billed invoice, but later we'll go in a little bit more. Now, there are entities with whom you will make payment to. Okay, for example, an individual who does some service for you, say like a commission agent, and you're paying the person commission. He's an individual, he cannot issue you an invoice. So now we have to go into our system as though we are him, as though we are the person who is paid, act as the person and issue an invoice to ourselves. So basically that's what self-bill is all about. I don't know if I articulated it correctly. Do you all understand it? You understand it, right? Okay. So basically I go into the system, there's a certain feature called self-bill. I'm acting as my supplier and billing myself. Okay. So these are basically all the documents as far as the e-invoicing is concerned. Okay. Do we have any questions so far? Okay. So basically we have the areas we have covered on module 2. We have looked at who is the governing authority. Okay, so we know it's LHDN. We have seen what kind of businesses need to adopt e-invoicing. Here is a more detailed as to who the type of organizations and companies. And then here we have seen the types of documents that are involved in e-invoicing. Now we're going to look at who is exempted from e-invoicing. Okay. So just now we said everybody else have to issue e-invoicing, but these people don't have to issue e-invoices. Okay. I'll go from the bottom line. Rulers, former rulers, consorts of rulers bearing special titles. So our king, our agong, our sultan, the prince, all don't need to, when they sell anything, they don't need to issue e-invoice. Okay. And in videos I can't say what I will say. So but not everybody, that means the sultan's brother's son doesn't come under that law. Right? Only those who carry this title, Raja Perempuan, Sultana, Tengku Ampuan, Raja Permaisuri, Tengku Permaisuri, and Permaisuri. Yeah. Only these 5 titles are allowed, not to issue e-invoice. Okay. So you have a lot of individuals who may be from the lineage, who may carry the name Tunku, just Tunku only, they just carry the name Tunku, they still have to issue e-invoice. Okay? So foreign diplomatic office is basically referring to embassies, high commissions, consulates. Okay. So let's say you go to the, I think Indian High Commission, no more visa, isn't it? Good, visa.
Never been to India, sir.
Australia, okay. Say you go to the Australian High Commission, they are online, like you apply for the visa, you pay for the 200 and all that. They don't have to give you an e-invoice. So they are exempted from okay. Then this is the one I mentioned, individual who is not conducting business. So for example, all your agents, distributors, those who will pay referral fees and commissions and stuff like that, right? The other area, or somebody providing you a service like cleaning service or conducting doing programming service, IT service, the one is a question mark area. The safest thing to do is do self-billing for it. Okay? So individual who is not conducting business, another example will be your landlord. Okay, if your office is a rented office, if your landlord is an individual, the landlord doesn't have to issue you an invoice. Okay, so you'll have to do self-billing for that. So statutory bodies, right? This one will be like all the government departments, and then like EPF and SOXO and all of these people. When you go and buy a service from them, passport, for example, passport, you pay the immigration charges or levy charges, and all that. They don't have to give us e-invoice. So international organizations, okay, this one is over already before 1st July 25. Yeah, now they have to issue already. Okay, the exemption has been removed already, right? So, you don't have to. Okay. And this also has been changed. Taxpayers with an annual turnover or revenue of less than 150,000. I purposely left this as 150,000, so it remind me to tell you all that it was changed to 500,000 only recently. Okay, so now up to 500,000 is exempted. This is the international organization that I was referring to here. This one. So basically, at that time, the international organizations involved were, like WHO and UNICEF and stuff like that. Okay, these are the implementation timelines. More than 100 million, they already started last year, 1st August 24. And at that time, they didn't have the grace period. No, they straight away had to implement. But if you're doing 100 million, you're a large organization already. You probably have very good teams and implemented properly. But I don't know if you all have noticed or not, certain banks didn't implement it. CIB is one of it. 25 million to 100 million, 1st January 25. They implemented this one. But they given 6 months grace period. So during the 6 months grace period, if you make an error, there's no penalty. If you fail to issue an e-invoice, there's no guarantee. And in fact, if you didn't have your systems in place and all that, you don't even have to issue your e-invoice on an invoice-to-invoice basis. But at the end of the month, you just could submit a consolidated invoice. Okay? So that's how consolidated invoice and consolidated self-billing, you could do that. Right? So 5 to 25 million, you just started, right? I think your company. Okay.
Not big enough.
Not big enough. 5 to 25 million, also same thing, 1st July, 6 months grace period. Okay. 1 million to 5 million will be January 26. 500 to 1 million is 1st July next year. And then less than 500,000 will be exempted. Okay. And again, all these will be having the grace period. Okay. I think this one, most of us, maybe in this region now. So next year, January, all of us will be implementing. Okay, how do they determine this figure based on which year? So it's based on your audited accounts for the year 2022. Okay, so if in 2022, let's say your figure was 1 million. In 2022, your figure was 1 million. But in 2023, you are 5 million. You still only fall under this category. You still treat yourself as less than 1 million, right? Okay, so this one here is based on companies up to year of assessment 2022. But what if your company was only incorporated in 23 or 24 or 25, right? The rule is slightly different. Okay, so if your company is formed 1st January 23 to 31st December 25, your annual turnover, if your annual turnover reaches 500,000 and above in any of these years, 23, 24, or 25, you will start reporting the year after. So for example, if you reached 500,000 in 2023, you will start reporting implementing e-invoice from 1st January 24. Okay? If you have not reached, then you are exempted. No need to do reporting until you have reached. Okay? Any question on this? This might sound a bit confusing. Let's straightforward. Okay? You all okay? Any question?
Let's say, for example, the company started in 2024, then the audited accounts will come, you'll do the audit later on, like somewhere in 2025, somewhere in the middle, right? Do we start in January 2025 or we start the following?
Okay, good question. So this one will be based on your management account, not on your audited account.
Okay.
So let's say you incorporated 2024 in March, and then your first financial year is supposed to be, say, February 25, but in September 24, you hit 500,000 based on your management accounts. From 1st January 25, you proceed to implement it. Okay, so this one is for companies 1st January 23 to 31st December 25. So the next one is for companies incorporated after 1st January 26. Okay, so basically the same rules apply. So if you hit 500,000 in 26, you will implement in 27. If you have not reached, then you are still exempted. So the same rules will apply. Okay, so These are the mandatory fields, right? It didn't come out properly. Okay, those that are, can you see a slight background color here? Okay, this one, so these are optional fields, don't need to really fill in, but all the others you have to fill in those fields. There'll be a couple of videos that will show all of these functions. But actually, if you really notice, right, they say 55 fields, but out of the 55 fields, most of the fields we already currently are practicing already. Okay, so if you run through, supplier means your own business. Whenever they use the word supplier, it is your business. Customer means customer's business. Okay. Now we all have our company name on our invoice, right? And then you also will have the buyer. Whoever is buying from you, you'll have their name. Okay. So this one is new. Supplier's TIN number. We right now in our normal invoices we don't have the TIN number. So this is a new requirement. Supplier registration is a new requirement. Supplier SST is a new requirement. Supplier tourism tax is a new requirement. Okay, earlier I was telling you all other agencies will be allowed to, LHN will be sharing information. Tourism industry is one of them that they will share with you. Okay, so this 1, 2, 3, 4 are new, but out of these 4, this one we hardly, most of us won't have any clients in this area. Okay? Supplier's email is mandatory. Okay, supplier MSIC code is a new requirement. MSIC code is Malaysian Standard Identification Code. Every business has a code. And supplier business activity description. I really don't know why they want this business activity description, but they still want. Okay. Then the buyer's TIN number is new. Buyer's registration number is new. Buyer's SST and email number is new. So this is supplier, that is the business itself. This is the buyer's detail. So you know why they want the supplier business activity description? So they want to know when you issue an invoice, if let's say you are a grocery shop, if you issue an invoice selling table, they will know that it's not your normal business. Right? So that's why they know your description. Okay, supplier address is normal, we already have it. Buyer's address as well, supplier contact number, buyer's contact number. So you notice a lot, most of this information except for one, this one we already have 2, 3, 4, 5. Out of these 17 lists, only 5 is new, The rest we already have in our existing invoices. Okay, so you also have to fill up the e-invoice version. Okay, right now the e-invoice version is version 1.1. Right? So e-invoice type, this is the one that we earlier were looking at now. You got e-invoice, credit note, debit note, refund, what the other one? Self-billing. Invoice code number. Until now, I don't know what is that, but I believe it's what the invoice number that you want to give. But when you are using accounting software, it autofills. So you see, you got an e-invoice code number and an original e-invoice reference number. So anybody know what's the difference? So basically this one, the portal, the invoice portal generates this one. This one is the number you are giving to the invoice, your internal invoice. Right? Okay, date and time. Okay, now there's a change in date and time. Previously, the date you create the invoice, the maximum you can backdate is 3 days. Right? So if I'm creating today is what day? 24th. if today I'm creating a invoice, the maximum I can. Okay, so far the following is okay. We can grasp whatever has been done, right? So we just do a recap whatever we did in the morning, because sometimes lunch hour after eating a lack of oxygen we've forgotten already. Okay. So we did module 1, which was an introduction to the e-invoicing and its strategic importance. So we covered what is e-invoicing. Okay, so we know the difference between our old way of invoicing and the e-invoicing that we are talking about now. So we looked a little bit, we delved into what the Malaysian digitization policy is all about. What do you think? The policy is a good policy or not? Lack of oxygen now. I think it's a good policy, because in a way where everything begins to be automated, uh, I particularly especially thinking of education. What the campus style face-to-face education, uh, universities had to have the buildings, chairs, all the facilities, which is a lot of investment, and therefore education cost is very high. Now with online education, you actually remove all these cost elements and and invest in digital infrastructure, which has got a long lifespan. So education becomes cheaper and accessible to many people. Right? It becomes more accessible even to the lower income group. So digitization will be good. So the claim that a lot of people will lose their job because of AI and all that, I think not very true. We'll have that debate on another day. Okay. Then we looked at module 2, the legal framework, where we saw that LHDN will be the authority that will be governing this. We looked at the invoicing scope and applicability, the timeline and the thresholds, mandatory data fields and format requirements, and of course my favorite topic, the penalties. And then module 3, we looked at the whole process on B2B transactions. And then we looked at specific scenarios for self-billing, consolidation, claims. What else did we see? Yeah, petrol claims and all of this stuff. Okay, staff claims and all that, right? So, do we have any questions up to module 3? Okay, so any questions up to module 3? We can go forward, huh? Okay, so now we come to module 4, the implementation, planning, and best practices. So actually, before we can implement anything, we need to plan. So the planning will take place. First, we have to look at how ready are we. Then choosing the model, the key implementation stages, change management and stakeholder engagement, and then finally the maintenance and then the continuous improvement that needs to take place. So very much this process is similar to any organization want to implement a certain change, you'll have to do these processes. So it's basically the same concept. So when we want to assess the current system, we need to assess it based on 3 particular areas. Area number 1 is people. The people must be ready. The human resource must be ready. So if you have a group of people who are reluctant to change, don't want to go for training, only want to stick to the old method, then it's very difficult to implement, right? So that there have to be attitude changes, there have to be skill changes. People need to surrender themselves to the idea that they cannot fight the system. They have to accept the system, or rather get married to the system. Okay? Process. So, in the past, for smaller companies, like Talib, for example, his company is a family-based company. Mine is also a family-based company. Yours no, So most family-based companies, right, we become the decision maker. And so I want to take out 10,000, I just take out some money. I don't have to ask anybody permission, nothing, right? So that's how we used to work. So that attitude, that way of working need to change, even for small companies, even for family-owned businesses, where husband and wife are directors in the company or something like that. The way of working need to be changed. You cannot simply take out money. Okay? So the process need to be looked at, and we need to identify gaps. Where is it that the process is failing, that doesn't meet the requirements of e-invoicing and actually the entire digitization plan. And the final area is technology. For small companies like we looked at earlier, right, like you get low volume of transactions, okay, no big issue. But if you've got loads of transactions for both expenditure and income, you have no option, but you need to source for technology. But there's not only one type of technology around, there's so many technologies around, so many softwares around. So you need to see which is the most suitable technology for you. Okay? So for example, I've one client who is a travel agent. To him, QuickBooks is not suitable because they have to do, if he uses QuickBooks, he has to book the tickets in one software and transfer to QuickBooks. It's very troublesome. So the travel agencies have a separate software that is most suitable to them. Actually, for legal companies also, there's a separate software. I think that separate software can do manage office account and client account. They have a software for that. So each company has to assess their technology infrastructure and plan accordingly what to acquire. Okay. So these are the 4 areas. Okay, this one is very important. In our present system, when we hold all our customer data, supplier data, and stuff like that, we hold according to what we need. So we most likely you only have customer name, customer address, phone number, email. That's the only 4 data that you hold. But now, as we saw the 55 fields, right? So you need to review what is all the data you have and update all of this data, so that your whatever system you're going to implement, you have all the necessary data to implement it. Yeah? So now again, the same thing. The decision between whether you want to choose the My Invoice portal or you want to use a software. What is your decision? My software. Over here. Software. Okay. I think for submission, you will need the software. But my view is you need to use both. You need to use both, especially when looking at the status of invoices. You need to go into the portal and continuously check the status of the invoices. So you need to ensure that at least on a monthly basis, you visit the portal. But otherwise, all of you are correct. The most convenient way is actually the software. Okay, the key implementation stages are there are actually 4 stages, phases. Phase 1 is the assessment, technology, HR, and monitoring. Assessment is what we looked at just now. Part of the assessment first you need to form a team in your organization, or it could be one person or 2%, or sometimes it can just be the one of the directors themselves. But somebody must champion e-invoicing in the organization. Okay, it cannot be like the director just saying, okay, go and do something, but he doesn't give you all the resources to do it, doesn't give you all a budget to do it, also makes no sense, right? So somebody has to champion it, find out what is the requirements, and you must have a budget and a timeline to implement and complete the implementation process itself. Because otherwise it will be just talk, everybody will be blaming one another at the end of the day. And this is real experience. Some of our clients, everybody is blaming one another. Maybe some of them are here. So everybody keeps blaming one another. Right? Then this is the one I was talking about. Once you decide what technology you want to use, you have to make sure that the integration is done. And then you need all the necessary people to be trained, So some companies they may have a sales force, and the sales force is once they close the deal, they are in charge of invoicing the client. I think you're mentioning that, right? Yeah. Your team raises invoice or accounts department? Yeah. Right. So different organizations have different ways of doing this. So you need to study it and see which is the most efficient way of raising these invoices. The reason why I'm saying this is the blame game will start now. When something doesn't go right and suddenly the penalties come, say 200,000, then the blame game will start. You're supposed to do, I'm supposed to do. So we need a lot of clarity in all of these areas now. May not be a very major problem for smaller organizations. Like if you're having only about, like Axis, we have about 11 staff. So we're not that big. So we don't expect much problems in those areas. But larger organizations, you may encounter some of these problems. So it must be properly laid out, written. Everybody should know what each person's duty and responsibility is. So this is what we are doing now. The internal training of the finance department. So staff have to go for training. They need to understand what is e-invoicing, the implications of e-invoicing, and what happens if you don't comply. And in this training, you have to also keep into account because LHN keeps changing its guidelines, not of any fault of theirs, because the business environment keeps changing. We also need to keep abreast of what is happening. And I don't know if you all are aware, they also have industry-specific guidelines. While what we are going through today is general guidelines, for certain industries, they have industry-specific guidelines. So, for example, logistics industry, they've got a separate set. Major part is the same, but there's quite a number of guidelines that differ for them. Travel industry is another one. Right? So you also have to look at if there is suddenly any specific guidelines that is coming out for your industry. Okay? I think advertising also got. Check out everything. Okay, and then phase 4 is monitoring. Once you've assessed your system, you've decided what you're going to do, you have trained your staff, and now you have implemented the system. So you don't stop down there. You need somebody to champion and monitor that everything is working as it should. So you need to set targets, goals. So the goal for error, how many percent errors are you willing to allow? What do you think will be the best rate, percentage of error? What do you think will be the best percentage of error to allow? 5% margin of error. Would you? 1%. You? How many percent? 3. 5? Betul, must be 0%. The margin of error has to be 0%. Cannot be 1%. You know, how many times do you want your boss to go to jail? Lah? And then this one, how many of you all have written SOPs in your company? Do you all have any SOPs written up? Okay, I didn't expect that lah, because most SMEs don't. We don't have SOPs. And that. But I think it'll be a good process, and the people in the relevant department will know it best. So if you're in the accounting department, you know what is your SOP. Who gives you the instruction of how much to bill to whom? Who will give you the instruction? Huh? The partners give the instruction. Okay. So then you prepare the invoice according to the partner's requirement. Okay. And that instruction is given in what form? Verbal. So if the partner actually asks you to bill $1,000 with disbursement all 500, and you actually bill 1,500 according to the partner, and then the partner actually made a mistake but forgot that it's a partner's mistake. I come and tell you, I told you 15,000, why you haven't billed 1,500? How are you going to prove yourself?
I think that one very common.
Ah,
Very common. SME very common.
very common.
We have a bar council as well, so we have to follow the bar council rules to charge the clients. So
Uh-huh.
different conveyancing different. So as part of my conveyancing, I have to follow the rules of the bar council.
Okay, let's say litigation case like then. Litigation,
In litigation, if you do a panel, they bring a panel work, then the insurance companies and other panels, they have certain fee code. We have to give them a fee code for them to accept our panel. So then we follow that fee code. Okay, so let's say like family law matters and all this thing is up, whether it's unilateral or it's going to be a joint petition, so there will be different fee code. So before we could charge the client, we will give them a fee code first. So if they accept the fee code, then maybe they will appoint us.
okay. So that fee code, who is deciding?
The partner.
Partners, okay.
The partners will send an email. This is the fee code. If our client accepted the fee code, they say, okay, please proceed. I accept your fee code. So then we will proceed.
Okay. So it looks like you have a process in place. You have a process in place. But let's say it's a one-off case, something doesn't involve all this convincing and being in the panel or something like that. Say a particular person walks in. I am your client actually. They say I walk in and speak to Francis, and then Francis sends me he just quotes me I say okay, and then let's say he quoted me example $8,000 lah. Then he forgets and tells you to prepare me an invoice of 5,000, and I prepare a 5,000. I pay you 5,000. Later I say no, I didn't tell you 5,000. How do you defend yourself?
Another invoice will pay another invoice.
So that would be.
The initial invoice is another final invoice. So you will separate
No,
the invoice.
I think what you're trying to tell you is your boss tells you something. You do according to what your boss says.
Yeah, later.
But your boss doesn't tell you in writing, right? So there's no proof what your boss said. Because there's no black
Ah.
Yeah, you write in the right
You write in the file.
That's why
Usually won't happen like that.
Ah.
Whatever they give us in the email, once in the email or either once they told us, okay, this much, we immediately write the file.
Okay.
You won't give us a verbal instruction. You make sure whether you write somewhere in a council note, everything. Hey, ma, please prepare the invoice for this.
There will be a black and white.
Black and white.
Okay, so there is black and white lah. Okay, and it's kept in an orderly way or something like
If you
that.
know there is no black and white, sometimes we charge more or higher, it's okay, never mind.
Okay,
It falls under category salute chicks or SRO, so that means we can charge according to our time, how much work we have done, all these things.
okay,
It shouldn't be a problem for
okay.
you.
For you, Mice?
pretty complicated lah.
Huh?
I'm in the materials industry, so every client is different. Then the point of sale is done by different people, right? So it depends on it's very individual aspect lah. For example, certain people they will give everything in writing, the pricing in writing and all those things, and then we bill accordingly. Then there are times that people don't give, they just give verbal instructions. So when it comes verbal, then you'll be like, I said this, you said that, and this thing happens.
Okay. So the point now is there is always that possibility, right, that when instructions are made from one person to another person, there may be breakdowns in between, misunderstanding of what is being said and all that. And the final outcome may not be the intended outcome. So that means there's a problem, and we need to always trace where the problem's roots are, not for the sake of blaming the person or whatever. You need to trace the root so you can make sure it doesn't happen again. So do you have a system of tracing that problem? So that needs to be put in place, but it doesn't have to be complicated problems. In my office, right, all billing, the amount is decided by me, right? So we have a Google sheet. So every staff, whatever work they are doing, have to be put it on the Google sheet, when they started, when they finished. And then I decide on the fee. It's on the Google sheet, and the account department will be prepared based on that, right? So it's transparent. Everybody knows, and nobody can say, "I told you this fee, why are you going to do this fee?" Nothing like that can happen, lah. Everything is transparent. Okay, but smaller firms, again, it's not a problem. Sometimes it's always verbal. But as an organization begins to grow, you need to have a very formalized SOPs to be put in place so that all these unnecessary problems don't happen. Lah. Okay, the next one is we need to communicate the change. Whatever changes has been planned, we need to communicate these changes to the employees. All of our employees must know not just what is being changed, but how we are going to do these things. Now, everybody need to know. We need to inform our customers as well, right? Hey, we have already implemented e-invoice, and according to invoice regulation, I require all this from you. And they have to comply. But you have a whole load of stubborn customers, one. And of course, your suppliers as well. You have to communicate with your suppliers as well. Now, let's say you have a supplier who you know makes more than 500,000 billing. All right? You know because he probably is doing business with you already $150,000, $200,000 a year. And you also know that he provides services to 2 or 3 of your friends, and definitely the total is more than 500,000. But he comes and tells you, no, my turnover only 300,000, so I don't need to give e-invoice. And if tomorrow you're audited and Inland Revenue actually finds out that that guy is more than 500,000, how do you protect yourself? Huh? Self-billing. Okay? But it's below 500,000.
Because we don't know.
Huh?
We don't know.
Actually, below 500,000, okay, you can do self-billing. But you're now doing self-billing because he's not issuing e-invoices, isn't it? But he should be doing e-invoicing. Okay. So in terms of proof of expense, you are okay. But in terms of dealing with a person who is not in compliance, you become complicit in that non-compliance now. So how do you protect yourself? So this is another document that you need to raise, okay? A declaration. Any person that you are dealing with who claims to be less than 500,000, you need to get a written declaration from that person stating that I hereby blah 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 blah, my turnover doesn't increase for I'm exempted because my annual income is less than 500,000 and I'm deemed to have been exempted. Okay, that one also ChatGPT can do for you, so no problem. Okay, this one, addressing concerns and resistance to change, you will always get now, especially if your organization is larger, right? And one particular person has been doing a particular thing and has felt very important doing it, and now you're going to take away some of his job, he's going to resist it. He's going to now feel irrelevant or unimportant. You need to take care of how that person, because that person can become a toxin in the organization. So you need to take care of the person and neutralize the person. Put one jab or something like that. And then establishing internal support channels. See, when you start introducing a lot of technology, if you have an employee who's as young as me or older, say you have an employee in his 70s, no? And not tech savvy, not familiar even with using, already he doesn't know how to use even Excel or Word, and then now you got all kind of technology, right? You need to help that person to that's what they say, internal support channels. You need some form of counseling, some kind of regular guidance to help that person, you know, even don't retire the person off lah. Okay, once everything you have done already, this is the next thing that you need to do. You need to review the LHDN guidelines and updates on a regular basis and make changes accordingly. And believe me, from now until end of 2026, there'll be a lot of changes because there's so many meetings that has been held. Like the Federation of Malaysian Manufacturers have raised a lot of concerns. MISA, the Malaysian Association of, what is MISA? Chartered Institute of Secretaries. They have raised a lot of concerns. The SME Corps have raised a lot of concerns, that kind of thing. So LHDN has to take these things into account and do what is necessary to review all of this. So I think as far as LHDN is concerned, their system will never be perfect now. It will be continuously evolving. And as they evolve, we will have to adapt to these changes as well. And I think it may take a close 5 to 10 years for everything to really stabilize. So 5 to 10 years, I don't have to worry so much. Yeah. Okay. And then this one, data reconciling and reporting, right? So you must make sure that, that is why I said you have to always go back to the portal at least 1 month once. Whatever you have done on your accounting software, generate a report, compare it with the portal to make sure everything is properly reconciled. Okay. Okay. Module 5 is 233. Module 5, a large portion of this is going to be videos. Okay. The first one, okay, except 5.1, the rest will be all videos that we're going to watch. Each of these video is specific. This one will be how to log into the My Invoice portal. Has anyone of you all logged into the My Invoice portal? Now, how did you link your software? I see, okay. And then once you have created that, then you have to, this one is this particular software, QuickBooks Online, but it's also applicable to other softwares, but the procedures might be different. Setting up e-invoice in QuickBooks Online, it basically will be how to link the online QuickBooks to the My Invoice portal, right? This one is how to create documents directly from the portal. If you are not going to use any software, you want to create the invoice and all that, how to do it. And this one is how to create documents using QuickBooks. Okay. So the reason why I'm showing this too is you will see that when you use this, it's more time consuming. When you use this, just full speed only. Okay. Okay, the first one is Introduction to Accounting Software and Invoicing. This one nothing much to say on this one now. So you can see all the others I put like this color, isn't it? When I came here, it was 2 o'clock in the morning. It's very sleepy. Okay. Okay, this one will be how to log in the My Invoice portal.
How to log in into My Invoice portal for first time. My Invoice portal is an e-invoicing solution provided by LHDN, designed to facilitate the e-invoice issuance and management for all individuals and companies at any time with the free access. Besides that, My Invoice portal simplifies e-invoicing with features for submission, review, cancellation, and ongoing access to validated transactions. My Invoice portal can be found within the tabs on the homepage of My Tax portal. Thus, to access the My Invoice portal, users will need a My Tax account to access the My Invoice portal. To start off, visit the My Tax portal at mytax.hasil.gov.my. Users will require to log into the My Tax portal using their existing details. At the portal, click the arrow to open drop-down for ID type. Choose an ID type from the drop-down. Enter your ID number. Then, click Submit. Confirm the security phrase is correct and key in your password. Click Login. Upon successful login, you will be brought to the My Tax landing page. At the My Tax portal landing page, click the My Invoice button at the top navigation bar. As it's first time logging into the My Invoice portal, you are required to acknowledge terms and conditions. Read through the statement and tick the checkbox on the bottom of the statement and click Continue. Next, we'll be directed to create a taxpayer profile. Fields such as taxpayer name, TIN, MSIC code, SST registration number, and tourism registration would have their data migrated from My Tax. Therefore, it would have been pre-filled and cannot be modified. Click the Default Notification Language drop-down to set the default notification language. Fill in the remaining fields, such as country, state, city, and postal code. Users are able to modify email address and telephone number under the notification details. Once complete, click Save. Next. This can be skipped and press Continue. This will take you to the next screens where you can review all the information. You can go back to the necessary screens by clicking back to make any corrections if required. If there are any errors, you will receive a notification with details of the error. Make the necessary corrections and submit. Once you are satisfied and have entered all the fields correctly, click on Sign and Submit. Fill up the Sign and Submit form with the digital signature and submit. Following transactions are allowed for consolidated self-billing e-invoice, incentive, commissions to agents, dealers and distributors, payment to foreign suppliers for imported goods or services, profit distributions, e.g. dividend payments, fees of e-commerce platforms, payout to all betting and gaming winners, payments to individual taxpayers who are not conducting a business, interest payments, insurance claims, capital reduction or share buyback. So now you are ready to raise a consolidate self-billing e-invoice. Thanks for watching the video, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel. For latest update and for more information, please visit our website, www.axisgroup.com.
So if you notice, the consolidated self-billing is exactly the same as self-billing, except that when it comes to line item, you are now choosing the code 004, no more the 022. That's the only difference. Other than that, it's all the same thing. And consolidated e-invoice, I put both into one, but we didn't show consolidated e-invoice. So basically be the same drop down, but you choose invoice. When you come to the consolidated site, what's the code? 006, something like that. You choose a 006 as your consolidated invoice code, right? Then it's done. Okay, so it's quite straightforward. You may not have grasped it fully because you're just watching each time like that, right? So when you go back or when you have free time like that, just review the videos and go back to the portal as well. Go back to the portal and look at all the different things. The portal allows you to make any mistakes that you want, because you can just erase it off. Okay. So just like you saw, isn't it, how long did it take to do one invoice in the portal? It takes roughly around 4.5 minutes. Around 4.5 minutes. So now we're going to create an invoice on QuickBooks. Okay, and just keep track of time.
Let's create an invoice with the e-invoicing option. Select New, then Invoice. Select the customer. Fill in the product details along with SST rate. Note that there is a new field SST amount, which is the total tax amount as per the requirement of the Malaysian government. Once you're done with updating all the details in the invoice, select Save and Submit e-invoice. To view the status of your invoice, go to Sales tab and select Invoices. Here you can see the status of the invoice in the e-invoice status column. Once you submit the invoice, the status is pending validation. If there are any errors in the invoice, the status here will appear as Error Submitting. You can open the invoice and see that the status is submitted to LHDN here. Note that once you submit an invoice for approval, you will not be able to edit the invoice. In case you need to edit an invoice, you'll need to create a credit note or a refund receipt. Once the government approves this invoice, the status changes to Validated. Typically, the approval of an invoice usually takes about a minute or so. You can open the invoice and see that it is accepted with a green tick here. Select the See Details link here. You can see the QR code. All validated invoices will have a QR code. When this code is scanned on your phone, you will be able to view this validated e-invoice in the My Invoice portal. In this way, your customers will know that this is an authentic invoice that has been validated by the government. Once the invoice is validated, you can send it to your customer by selecting the Save and Send option or select any other suitable save options. Lastly, select the Print or Preview here. When a customer downloads or prints the invoice, they can see the official LHDN QR code on this invoice. Note that e-invoicing is supported only on the standard ARI Modern template. Now you're ready to start e-invoicing your customers.
So generally on QuickBooks, it takes less than 30 seconds to generate an invoice. The rest of the thing you saw was just the validation and stuff like that. You know? So the reason why it's faster is because when you created the customer profile, you've already put in all the information there. You don't have to go and key it in each time. Same thing for the product. You've already classified everything, right? So it's so much more faster. Okay. It is credit note, also even faster.
Now let's dive in on how to create a credit note in QuickBooks. First, you go to the plus sign on your left panel. Next, select Credit Note. On our credit note screen, select Customer. The system will display all the outstanding invoices on the right of your screen. If you want to apply the credit note to an invoice, scroll through the list of invoices displayed and select by clicking on the Add button. This will apply the full amount of the invoice to the credit note. If you wish to apply a partial amount, then you can override the amount and key the amount you want to apply. Once you have completed this, click Save and Submit to LHDN. If you want to extend a discount to your customer based on the total outstanding invoices and not related to any particular invoices, then you follow these following steps. As previously, select Customer. Enter the product service item. The classification code will display. Enter description. Concise, enter amount. Enter SST if applicable. Once completed, click the Save and Submit to LHDN. Similar to invoices, the credit note will be displayed in the List to Invoice screen, and the status will appear as submitted, validated, or rejected.
So you can see very clearly the advantages of using accounting software compared to working on the portal. So all of you are already into it. So I think SQL is equally good. It's not like QuickBooks is better or whatever. It's equally good. SQL has got certain features that are right. But I'm not sure about your flexibility of the invoice. Can you create different templates or just one fixed template? You can create different templates. Okay, good. Okay, so let's test knowledge now. Question number 1. All businesses are required to do e-invoicing. There are few exceptions. Name me a few. Okay, okay. Actually, the one is self-billing. Huh? This one is all businesses are required to do e-invoicing. There are few exceptions. Name a few. Huh? Royal family. They don't. What is that? Embassies and all that, and foreign. This one. Okay, so those would be some examples. Give example of businesses that are allowed to do consolidated e-invoicing. Okay, that's good. Supermarkets here. Okay, what is self-billing? Yeah, basically you're acting as a supplier and billing yourself. When is it better to use the portal instead of an accounting software? Volume based. What are the 3 main components to assess readiness? Yeah. So you remember PowerPoint or PPT? You're short of Okay, what are the 4 stages of implementation? HR and monitoring. Okay, so we've actually finished the module. I'm just giving some additional information here. Okay, so when a customer reports an error in an invoice, if the error is reported within 72 hours, then the validated invoice can be amended. I mentioned this earlier as well. If the error is reported after 72 hours, then the validated invoice cannot be amended. Okay, and the only way you can adjust the figure is by way of a credit note or a debit note or a refund note. Okay, so the one is important to know. Okay, transactions with buyers who require e-invoice, but the buyer doesn't provide the identification number, doesn't give his ID number. What do you do? So when they don't give you the ID number, you can actually put 000, I think it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. For buyer's identification number. You can actually use 000. And for buyer's TIN number, this one is for Malaysian individual. Buyer's TIN number, if they don't give you the TIN number, you can use this, EI, got 9 zeros and then 1 0. Okay, this one. But this is the thing, is the thing. You will need one or the other. You cannot create an invoice where you don't have both that information. You need one or the other. So you must either have the ID number or you must have the TIN number. Okay? Any question on that? Okay? All right. This one is for non-Malaysian individuals. The buyer's ID number, unavailable is the buyer's ID number. Not available is the TIN number for non-Malaysian, right? So for that you will use this code EI 9020. Okay, so this is the code that you will use. Yes. Yeah. So say for example, now you're doing self-billing for a foreign supplier. They don't have TIN number, so you will use this number, this EI 9020. Okay. So non-Malaysian individual without passport number. So you have his buyer's TIN number. He's a non-Malaysian individual, but is resident in Malaysia, so he has a TIN number. But you don't have this one. You don't have a passport number. You just put all 00. I think it's 11 zeros for the ID number. Okay. Now this information is actually a screenshot from the LHDN portal. So it is available there. You can actually pick it up from there. Okay. Okay, I'm skipping this. Okay, this is an example of how a consolidated invoice is going to look like now. So when you actually generate the invoice, you will have all that numbers there. Okay, but actually here, if let's say it's a full sequence number 1001 right up to 1099, then here it will come as 1001-10099. It won't come out as a whole line like that, okay? And then the QR code will be there, okay? But this one you don't have to worry because you're not creating, it creates itself. Okay, I went through this earlier already. Okay, this will be the sample of the self-billed invoice. Okay, so earlier we recapped module 1, 2, and 3. So we just run through module 4. Module 4, we looked at the implementation procedures. And I think you all remember everything. Like this, based on the test questions, all of you all seem to remember everything. So we did internal readiness assessment, choosing the right model, which is very critical. The key implementation steps in implementing the whole e-invoicing system, change management, and then post-implementation, the maintenance and continuous improvement. Okay, so you can expect that LHDN will be doing more revisions to the regulations, right? So one way for you to keep abreast of these changes is actually to go regularly, visit the portal and stuff like that. But I have a Axis e-community where I post all the latest guidelines, latest rules, not only on e-invoicing, on other tax issues as well. So I will add you all to the community. I've added you to the community, right? Yeah. I didn't add you. Okay. On WhatsApp community. Okay, I'll add you all to the community so you can keep abreast of all the latest information. So every month, right? Every month, LHDN and Customs at least makes close to about 5-6 public announcements, public rulings, things like this. And most people don't get access to this because it's there, but we don't take the trouble. So we have a research team that does the necessary, and then we just post it out. Okay, so follow it. And then our social media team will also promote it on LinkedIn. Actually, on LinkedIn, right? So it will also be promoted on LinkedIn, Facebook as well. Okay. So module 5 is all the different ways of creating the different documents using the portal and also our QuickBooks. Okay, this was the bonus module. Some of the lawyers will know this. Okay, this act, Stamping Act, has been there since 1949, right? And the act actually requires that employers, when we employ our staff, we do the employment agreement. The agreement was required to be stamped. Okay, the act was always there. It's not something new. But LHDN or the governing authorities did not enforce it. So the law was there, but there was no enforcement. Then around May this year, LHDN made a surprising announcement. They say, okay, there is such a law. We are going to do an audit backdated 3 years. So they wanted to go all the way back to 22. I mean, if they went to any company, even multinationals, I believe, none of them would have had their employment agreements stamped. So it sounded like it was just like a money-making deal, you know. So there were a lot of bodies that protested it. Federation of Malaysian Manufacturers, Malaysian Institute of Accountants, a lot of professional bodies had regular meetings with LHDN. And then they said, okay, guys, we won't go backwards. We're not going to audit you. But from 1st January this year, every company must get their employment agreements stamped for new employees employed from 1st January. But they're making this announcement in May, June, you know. May, June. So those who will be employed around 1st May will end up paying penalties. So there was another round of negotiation, and LHDN then agreed that for all employees employed in 25, we have to get the agreements stamped by 31st December, and the penalty will be waived. But if you go to their online stamping model, portal, right, there's no space for waiver there. You will see the penalty still coming out. So there must be some other process that I'm not aware of. We need to find out where that waiver should apply. They should waive that the penalty. Okay? And then initially the discussion was how much is the stamp duty supposed to be? So if you take rental, for example, right, stamp duty on the rental is assessed by what your annual income is. Am I correct? For rental, right? LHDN actually went on that basis. They said they have to take the annual income of the individual and charge stamp duty. So can you imagine, like CEOs and all who are earning tons of money, what kind of stamp duty we are looking at? It's going to be quite substantial amounts. So again, there was a backlash, and then they said, okay, all will be at 10 ringgit. So that's a fair amount. Okay. But what requires now is a lot of paperwork to be done, because what are the implications? I think the stamp duty penalty is, do you know what the penalty for late stamping? They have a 30-day, 60-day, and something like that, right? Yeah, okay. I'm not sure what the penalty amount is, But apart from the penalty amount, the other thing is, if you don't stamp the agreement, they're going to disallow the expense for your tax computation. So if you have, let's say, 10 employees and you're paying 30,000 a month for the total, 360,000, the whole expense will be disallowed. So you will end up paying tax on that amount. Okay, so we need to get this done. So anybody who wants to get the stamping done can go to the legal firm there and get stamping done. Prepare your employment agreement and get it done. Okay. Okay. Apart from the stamping of employment agreements, there are security companies have this issue. Sometimes you have they get an assignment in a particular location. So let's say they got 2 security guards for that person. And when they want to rent a space, they will just rent one room because no point taking an entire house. And they will rent it from a subtenant who himself is maybe a foreigner. And they won't have any agreement, nothing. Those kind of arrangements cannot continue now. I think you all have quite a bit, isn't it? So those kind of arrangements cannot continue. If you continue, then those expenses will not be allowable. Okay? So if your arrangement is with a foreigner, you are in a bit of a difficulty there. Okay? The other thing will be like if you have agents, sales commission agents, that means how do you go? You have contract of service and contract for service, right? Contract of service is employment agreement. Contract for service is subcontract. So when you have subcontract agreements which have both a quantum and a tenor, also have to be stamped. But it must meet both conditions, a quantum and a tenor. Okay? Need to be stamped. And that one, if there's quantum, the stamp duty will be based on the annual value of the contract. Okay? The next one is going to surprise all of you. This is about withholding tax. Do you know that when you purchase, let's say, Microsoft Windows, okay, so when you buy the software, that you don't own the software, right? Because you can't make changes, you can't distribute, you can't resell, nothing, right? You are not the owner of the software. You are merely a licensee of the software. You are merely getting a license to use the software. And very often it be either annual or biannually or something like that, right? And since Microsoft is a foreign entity and you are buying a service from a foreign entity, it is subject to withholding tax. So what does withholding tax mean? So if you're buying something for 1,000 ringgit, you have to withhold 10% and pay that to LHDN. So that means you have to pay Microsoft only 900 ringgit. Okay? The same applicable to Facebook. Let's say you are putting Facebook advertisement and the Facebook advertisement comes to say 500 ringgit. You're supposed to withhold 10%, that's 50 ringgit, and pass it to LHDN. And the balance 450 ringgit you pay to Facebook. Okay, so that's what the withholding tax. But the question is, will Facebook accept 450 ringgit? Will Microsoft allow you just to pay 900 ringgit? They won't, because they don't have any mechanism on their paying system that allows for this. So on one side, these foreign entities don't have a mechanism for us to withhold. On the other side, LHDN says we have to pay. So it ends up, we have to pay. So we'll have to pay on behalf of Microsoft. So a product that costs 1,000, now you get 10% you have to pay to Inland Revenue. So your actual cost is 1,100. So if you don't do it, what happens? The whole cost becomes disallowed and you're going to pay 17 or 24% tax on that amount, depending in which bracket you are. Okay? Now, this will not apply if the software is your own software. Example, I ask a company in India to develop a software for me, and I pay them a fee. So they are the developers. I own the software. Then this rule doesn't apply to that. Okay. So this one is only more for technical services based on a license basis or royalty basis, stuff like that. Okay. Any questions on this? But did you find this surprising? Isn't it? It's like actually I never have paid my withholding tax on any of this until like somewhere around May, June last year when we realized about it. Okay, now is Q&A time. Anybody, any question on topics of today?
For the stamping act, right? Now, let's say we have a service agreement. Do we need to stamp it?
Yes. So if you take the Stamping Act, right? If you take the Stamping Act, I can't remember which section and all that, but there's one part which actually defines all the different type of agreements that require to be stamped. So any contract that has value and tenor need to be stamped. That's a general definition. Then you have got all the specific agreements that need to be signed up. One minute. I'm just distributing the feedback form. It's a requirement by HRDC that I have this feedback done to submit it to them. Yeah. Self-billing. This month. August, yeah. Actually, it's already there, but we belum activate lagi.
Then for the consolidated that billing, for the E1,
Right.
consolidated E1, right? So that we have a lot of we might not keep the full name and all that because it's where it depends on the monthly consolidated selling.
Actually, yours is not considered a retail service, you know. Yeah. Yeah. But most of your customers will be non-business, isn't it? So it's a B2C, B2C, but okay, B2C generally can, but I need to confirm with you whether these industries fall in that. Because there are a lot of exception to the consolidated thing. How will you define it, your industry? Repair. Any other questions? Yeah? Foreign worker? Foreign worker insurance is an instrument that needs to be stamped, but the one the insurance company will do. When they bill you for the stamp duty already. Yeah. The one is their responsibility, not your responsibility. They will do it. With this, we end today's session. Okay, so thank you very much, each one, for being here, for your attention, for your interaction, for all your good questions. If you have finished filling up the feedback form, can Helen get it quickly? Okay. So just a few things. Don't forget. Number one, to review the videos that I'll be sending together with the PowerPoint slides. Number one. Number two, please take the effort to go into the portal, Allegiant portal, look at all the different documents there, play around so you get used to it. Number three, if your bosses have not gone for a program like this, they should go, like this guy and that guy, okay? Your bosses should go, because I can tell you why. It's only the bosses who can champion the change, okay? Because otherwise you go back, you tell them this. They will listen, but that's not their priority. And truly, it's not their priority. Their priority is to bring in new business. They don't look at this as a priority. But they need to see that you can bring in business, but you don't implement this, you lose money as well. So they need to look at the importance of it. Okay? How many partners have your firm got? 5 partners. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, each one.